Over 800 wildfires burning across Canada are pumping toxic smoke straight into 124 million American lives. Toledo's air quality index just hit 510 times the threshold where air becomes genuinely hazardous for everyone. Detroit ranked as the most polluted city on Earth. And New York City's skyline simply vanished in smoke. Here's the quick version. Record heat baked Ontario's forests dry, and fire counts exploded 45% in 48 hours. More than 185 Ontario wildfires erupted, 74 out of control, and their smoke crossed the U.S. border fast. We will walk through every impacted U.S. city and the full timeline. Your city is almost certainly on this list. A powerful jet stream grabbed that smoke wall and dragged it hundreds of miles across the U.S. border within hours. Storms hit the Northeast, but instead of washing out the smoke, they dragged it right down to street level. That ground level smoke is why this event is hitting so much harder than anything we saw back in 2023. Wildfire smoke has now settled across 12 U.S. states, from the Great Lakes all the way to the Northeast coastline. Michigan's Mackinac Bridge literally vanished in the smoke, invisible from both shores. No joke. Completely gone from view. Satellite images show dozens of fires along the Minnesota border, with the smoke pushing further south every single hour. Workers on an Ontario freight train were trapped as actual flames whipped directly against the rail car windows around them. Here is what matters most to millions of Americans. Nowhere near a fire line, the smoke found you anyway. Wildfire smoke pushed more than 600 miles south of the Canadian fire zones and landed in New York City overnight. Times Square turned dark and ominous, and New York City's entire skyline disappeared behind a curtain of orange haze. Dale from Toledo is living the worst of it. His AQI hit 500 this morning, and good air starts below 50. A QI 500 means outdoor air is classified as hazardous for every single person outside, no exceptions of any kind. Philadelphia, Boston, and Washington, D.C. have air quality warnings covering every metro area as conditions hit dangerous levels broadly. Boston's sky shifted to brownish-yellow haze, and that unmistakable campfire smell has been hanging over the city all day. New York City officials gave straight-up guidance: stay indoors, wear an N95 mask, and skip outdoor activities today. Chicago is at AQI 300 A level, where healthy adults start facing measurable risk from even brief outdoor exposure. Minneapolis, Detroit, and Chicago all rank in the global top 10 most polluted cities on Earth. Wild but true. Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh are deep in the red zone with warnings covering the entire Great Lakes corridor today. Pennsylvania escalated to code purple, one level above code red, and the worst tier any state can declare. Massachusetts dropped a statewide alert, while Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are all draped in the same orange haze. A quasi-stationary front is holding wildfire smoke locked over Minnesota. It is not moving anywhere, making concentration worse. Back in 2023, Canadian smoke rode high in the atmosphere and thinned before reaching street level in any serious way. This time around, a pattern shift pulled that entire smoke column right down to where people walk and breathe daily. Minnesota is seeing actual ashfall fire debris raining from the sky as AQI hits the very unhealthy purple tier. At AQI 800, outdoor air becomes a genuine hazard for every single person, well off the charts by any measure. Reality check: 800 fires, 124 million Americans breathing hazardous air, and fresh smoke waves still arriving from Canada. Now let's dig into exactly what makes wildfire smoke more dangerous than the everyday urban pollution in your city. Wildfire smoke is loaded with PM 2.5 ultrafine particles that slip past your defenses and go deep into lung tissue. Beyond PM 2.5, this smoke carries carbon monoxide and toxic chemicals that deliver cellular level damage with every breath you take. Doctors are saying it plainly: Breathing this air is like smoking a tougher cigarette brand nonstop all day long. PM 2.5 particles do not stop at your lungs. They push through into your heart, brain, and entire circulatory system. According to the American Lung Association, even short-term smoke exposure raises cardiovascular hospitalizations and triggers asthma attacks in children. ER visits across affected cities are spiking. Infant mortality risk climbs. And chemotherapy patients face serious danger going outside. Doctors from Toledo to Boston agree, grab an N95 or KN95 mask before stepping foot outside at all today. If smoke is detectable inside your home, your indoor air is already compromised. Seal up the windows and doors. Margaret from Lake Charles, your Gulf Coast is catching a break as wind patterns hold the heaviest smoke farther north. Here is the underreported story. Real fire risk is building inside U.S. territory, right along the Canadian border. U.S. wildfires have already burned through 3.6 million acres across the western half of the country this summer alone. A brush fire broke out north of Los Angeles and threatened homes during an intense Southern California heat event midweek. Firefighters contained that LA blaze. But Southern California stays bone dry and dangerously primed for more fire activity ahead. Scientists at Columbia call it a perfect storm extreme drought. Record heat and dried out forest fuel all merging together. Research shows climate pollution caused roughly 15,000 extra American deaths from wildfire smoke between 2006 and 2020 alone. Experts are not sugarcoating it that death toll will climb as fire seasons grow longer and more intense yearly. When Ontario smoke erases New York skyline, that is not a freak event. That is the new American reality. Frank from Springfield is watching Chicago choke under AQI 300. Hang tight. Your city's full forecast is coming next. But first, here's what is happening along the U.S.-Canada border with fire risk spreading south right now. A red flag warning for Washington and Idaho signals new fire starts from tonight's lightning strikes are expected. Fire managers are watching red flag conditions build low humidity, dry fuel, and gusty winds across the northern tier. Outflow winds to 30 miles per hour from northwest thunderstorms could push any new ignition straight into extreme fire behavior. Montana and Idaho are tracking fire hotspots right along the Canadian border as conditions hold bone dry and critical. 72 Ontario fires out of control. No rain in the forecast, making any meaningful containment physically impossible. Smaller Ontario fires are actively merging into larger complexes. When fires join forces, containment becomes virtually impossible. Fort Francis 14 and 15 merged into a single 3,500 hectare complex, one of 72 fires that cannot be contained. Environment Canada's seasonal forecast calls for above-average heat and dry conditions across Ontario and Manitoba through at least August, until rain falls on Ontario's fire zones. Those 72 blazes cannot be stopped, not by any human force. If northwest fires ignite from tonight's lightning, a second smoke front could reach Pacific Coast cities fast. Keeping those numbers front and center, 800 fires, AQI 500 in Toledo. Detroit ranked worst air quality on Earth. What we are watching, 124 million Americans breathing hazardous air. Is the climate future arriving ahead of schedule? Heat and drought from climate change are not backing down. These large smoke events will keep returning more frequently. Researchers say wildfire smoke-linked deaths in the U.S. will rise significantly throughout the coming decades without major changes. East of the Rockies, treat wildfire smoke the same way you treat hurricane season. Plan ahead every single year. Here is the full city-by-city forecast. Share this with any family member living in the impacted zone right now. Detroit is the hardest hit city, and forecasters see gradual AQI improvement beginning Friday evening, with cleaner air coming. Chicago and western suburbs should see smoke thinning through Friday, with much cleaner air arriving Sunday morning overall. Frank from Springfield, there is your answer. The Chicago corridor should be breathing significantly easier by Sunday morning. Minneapolis sees Friday as the turning point. The jet stream should shift and push smoke northward by Friday evening. Cleveland and Pittsburgh are tracking smoke clearing from worst levels Saturday. with clean air finally arriving on Sunday morning. New York and New Jersey should see gradual improvement Saturday, heading into a much cleaner atmosphere by Sunday afternoon. Forecasters say New York metro air should hit safe levels Sunday, right in time for the World Cup final kickoff. Earl out in western South Dakota sees fire danger building. Dry fuel and gusty winds are making land managers nervous. If those plains conditions ignite significant fires, the smoke pipeline toward Nebraska and Kansas would intensify dramatically. Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Richmond are all tracking smoke clearing by Saturday evening, followed by a much cleaner Sunday. Boston and New England should clear out Sunday when a cold front drives the smoke back north at long last. Syracuse, Hartford, Providence, and Albany all track the same, worst of it behind you, by late Saturday afternoon. Comment your city name below and tell us how bad the smoke is hitting your area today so far. D.C., Northern Virginia, and the Maryland suburbs are all under air quality warnings that remain in effect through Saturday. Mid-Atlantic residents planning Saturday outdoor activities should wait and check the AQI before making any final call at all. Keep windows sealed, run AC on recirculation, and fire up any HEPA purifier you have running at home. Properly fitted N95 masks provide real PM 2.5 protection. Cloth and surgical masks simply will not cut it outside. Never trust the sky's appearance alone. PM 2.5 stays at hazardous levels, even when the air appears completely clear. Check AirNow's fire and smoke map for your area. It updates all day long with the most current conditions. Youth sports coaches always check the AQI before any game or practice call when smoke events are this active. Scale check, 800 fires still burning, a QI above 300 in Chicago, and no relief rain in the Ontario forecast. Ontario has deployed 13 ranger crews, 10 firefighting teams, and 12 helicopters just to fight the Fort Francis fire alone. 72 Ontario fires are still completely out of control. Resources stretch dangerously thin with no rain in the forecast. Northern Ontario communities were destroyed overnight as residents evacuated by boat through active flames burning on both sides. Thunder Bay ran out of hotel rooms. Evacuees from destroyed communities ended up sleeping in their own vehicles overnight. Telecommunications went down in 6 remote First Nations communities, cutting them off from emergency alerts and all outside contact. Road closures are blocking daily medical transport. Dialysis patients who rely on those routes cannot reach their appointments. What is happening in Ontario is a humanitarian crisis, and it will keep pushing smoke south until meaningful rain arrives. South of that border, millions of Americans are still waiting to hear exactly when their city finally catches a break. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The climate factors driving this crisis are expected to keep worsening before they improve. Heat and drought locked in by climate change mean large-scale smoke events hitting U.S. cities will become more frequent. If home smoke preparedness has never been on your radar, this event is the wake-up call to start now. Sandra in Alexandria, your D.C. and Northern Virginia corridor should see improving conditions arriving Saturday evening into Sunday morning. Sandra, the Chesapeake Bay Metro should be in solid shape for Sunday outdoor plans. Just hold tight a bit longer. Anyone not tracking daily air quality should download the AirNow app and make it a part of their daily routine. Wildfire smoke events of this scale have already shifted from days-long incidents to weeks-long national air quality crises. Tell us in the comments which city or region you want covered next. We read every single reply you leave. Millions of Americans are getting their first real look at what a climate-driven air quality emergency actually feels like. Hotter summers in Ontario translate directly into smokier summers for every American city sitting in that downwind corridor south. Carbon emissions built up over decades of fossil fuel use are not reversing on any near-term timeline we can see. Every large smoke event of this scale is a preview of what U.S. cities will face with increasing regularity ahead. Make the N95 purchase, bookmark the AirNow app, and build a smoke plan for your entire household before the next event. Stock several N95 masks. Identify your best ceiling room. and share your preparedness plan with nearby family members today. North American wildfire smoke season is no longer a West Coast story. It is coming for the whole country now. It is happening more frequently, reaching farther east, and hitting harder than climate models predicted even just 5 years back. Researchers studying wildfire air quality say these crises will intensify across all U.S. regions throughout the decades ahead of us. If your city is missing from our coverage, put it in the comments and we will make sure to track it. Check on elderly neighbors during events like this. Wildfire smoke hits seniors harder than almost any other demographic group. Pets with respiratory conditions are vulnerable too. Keep dogs and cats indoors during heavy smoke days and monitor closely. If you have a spare N95 and a neighbor who needs one, hand it over. That gesture genuinely matters a lot. Final reality check, 800 fires burning. 124 million Americans breathing hazardous air. Detroit ranked worst air quality on the planet. Every city from Chicago to Boston to D.C. is a reminder that wildfire smoke season now belongs to all of us. With 72 Ontario fires still raging and no rain in the forecast, another smoke event before summer ends is certain. Prep your smoke kit, monitor your AQI app daily, and pass this breakdown to anyone in your network who needs it. We will be back with a full updated city breakdown as conditions continue to evolve over the coming 48 hours. For real-time air quality data in your area, AirNow.gov remains the most reliable monitoring resource available to you. With fires merging, ashfall in Minnesota, and Pacific Northwest, red flags active. This crisis is still actively escalating. Stay alert. Keep N95 masks accessible. And know that air quality can shift quickly in either direction without warning. 600 miles of smoke reaching New York's skyline means no American city east of the Rockies is truly safe. From the Great Lakes to Times Square, to Boston Harbor and the Virginia suburbs, this smoke has no respect for borders. Share this breakdown with someone who may not know how serious this air quality situation has gotten for their city. Having the right information during a smoke event makes a real and meaningful difference in protecting your family's health. When the air finally clears, do not forget what you saw and smelled. Use it as motivation to stay ready. Build your preparedness plan. Learn your AQI app inside and out, and know exactly what to do when smoke returns. Scientists say events like this are a dead-on preview of what climate-driven air quality crises will look like going forward. Summer 2026 will be remembered as the year wildfire smoke finally stopped being a Western problem and went fully national. Keep your household prepared, keep your AQI app updated, and keep checking on the people in your neighborhood through this. Because there will be a next event, and it could hit harder and faster than anyone expects. No question. From Toronto to Toledo, from Times Square to the Chesapeake, 800 fires do not discriminate by city or zip code. Every resident of the eastern United States should now consider themselves a potential downwind target during any active fire season. Wildfire smoke does not stop at national borders, state lines, or zip codes. It follows wherever the wind takes it. And as of today, that wind is carrying smoke straight south from Ontario into American cities and American lungs. Be ready, be informed, and look out for your neighbors. That is what events like this demand of all of us. We have tracked this from the ignition point in Ontario all the way to smoke hitting New York now. Share this. More updates are coming as conditions evolve because with 800 fires still burning, this story is far from finished. Pass this to a friend in any of the impacted cities. They may not know what they are currently breathing. 800 wildfires burning, 124 million Americans breathing hazardous air. Detroit, the most polluted city on the entire planet.